Welcome to the Nerd Journey Podcast. Our goal is to help you, the technology professional, accelerate your career progression, increase your job satisfaction, and be more effective in your existing role.
We want to bring listeners like you the career advice we wish we'd been given earlier in our careers.
I'm John White, at VJourneyman on Twitter, sharing co-host duties with Nick Cordy at NetworkNerd_.
We're two former IT operations guys who have moved on to pre-sales roles with technology vendors. We have our opinions, but we also like to highlight the journeys of others and see what we can learn from them.
We'd also like to ask for your feedback to make this a conversation, not a one-way broadcast. Email us at nerdjourneypodcast@gmail.com or DM us at nerdjourney on Twitter. So come join us on our nerd journey.
Let's take a trip. Episode 345. Moving into people leadership is one path the technology professional can take. But what happens when you try to move back to individual contributor after having that experience? The impact of making this change is what Paul Nadeau calls resume damage. Paul is a solutions consultant at Palo Alto Networks, and let's lock in as we hear part 2 of his story this week. If you missed part 1 of our discussion in episode 344, we heard about Paul's decision to join the Navy, his beginnings as a radioman and learning telecommunications. Then we followed him through his conscious decision to pursue law enforcement and to return to the Navy that found Paul in military leadership training. We talked about the applicability of that training even in the civilian world, a lot about leadership, and some ideas for how you might approach someone who you think has leadership potential. This week in part 2 of our discussion, you're going to hear a lot about the technical career path as an individual contributor and the difference between that and the career path of a people leader. And through the lens of that difference, we'll explore the reasons why Paul decided to make his move from being a director of worldwide services at a global telecommunications company back to the individual contributor life. What are some of the motivations he had, and what are some of the challenges if you want to do this as well? Paul's going to talk through some of the reasons why he chose to pursue different technical specialties within the networking, telecommunications, and security space over time. And then finally, how can you give to your network with no agenda? Paul shares his strategy for meeting new people, having good conversations, and seeking to just be helpful. Let's get you to part 2 of our discussion with Paul Nadeau.
I think the conversation definitely needs to be had, and it's a fun conversation to have, but then there's the other side, which is, do you know what you're getting into?
I think we've talked before on the show about the technical path versus the managerial path. Fortunately, in, medium to large size organizations, if you want to stay an individual contributor, there generally is a path. Whatever your title is, like engineer, there's a senior engineer, there's maybe a super senior engineer, or staff engineer or principal, distinguished. If you want to progress in your career and you don't have that path, management is not the natural thing to look at unless you actually want to stop what it is that you are doing and become a manager. Because becoming a manager does not make you like tech lead. It makes you manager. It's a hard piece of advice to give somebody if they're in a organization that does not have like a next title, a next promotion for that person where they stay an individual contributor, to go, well, you shouldn't try to become a manager. You should try to move organizations. That's hard advice to give. I've had to do that a couple times.
There was a company I worked at. I wound up in a conversation with my boss, actually, who was a newer manager, promoted from a different position into this position. And he shows this flow chart, right? And on the left-hand side, it had engineer. On the right-hand side, it had manager, and it showed, okay, so you're a senior engineer, so you're the same as a first-level manager. And then if you go to staff engineer, you're the same level as a senior manager. And if you go to principal engineer, you're the same level as the director. And I'm like, that is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. There's no comparison between the management going up a chain of command and the engineer going up a chain of command. It's a completely different skill set altogether, right? The higher in management that you get, yes, the more responsibility you have, but then you start worrying about, instead of looking at an Excel spreadsheet or expense reports or whatever. Now, all of a sudden, you're managing a P&L. You're managing a profit and loss center. So you no longer care about those expense reports that come in, other than you need to make sure that they do get submitted. But at the end of the day, what is my team spending and what are they spending it on? And then you get promoted to the next level. And now all of a sudden you have an entire division where you're looking at, okay, how can we more effectively distribute the funds? Because now I have a budget and I only have so much funds we can do. Now we have RSUs that we need to figure out who gets more RSUs than the other person in order to try to keep them or whatever. We have pay raises. Everybody loves to give raises. Nobody likes to fire. Nobody likes to tell that person, hey, I got to put you on a performance plan. Everybody wants to say, hey, you're promoted. All of a sudden, it's like you call them and, oh, yeah, 5 other people called me already. Oh, wow, everybody wants to tell you got promoted. But let there be a firing or a layoff, and all of a sudden, there's nobody to be found. Everybody's gone. There is that other side of it, right? Which is how do you equate it? Like you said, it's a really good point, right? Which is in your technical career, there's a couple things that I look at. Am I having fun? Am I a benefit to the company? And where am I going to be a bigger benefit to the company? Doing my role now or being in a management role? And then the other thing with it is are my customers happy if you're customer facing with me doing what I'm doing, right? If you're in tech support, the answer is going to be no to that right off the bat, right? Because everybody hates tech support. But it doesn't matter what you do. You can be whatever company out there, right? If you're tech support, forget it.
That's how you learn to be calm. Go work tech support.
You got to work tech support, right? Yeah. If you want to learn how to do conflict resolution, go to the tech support, yes. The second is professional services, because that's the other organization that really gets beat to death, right? It's kind of fun to watch people in their career, right? And try to figure it out, because I think one of the big reasons why people leave companies is whenever they say there's no room for promotion, it doesn't have anything to do with promotion into management. A lot of times they think that's what it is, but it has to do with promotion of their brand, their career path. What are they doing and how are they getting there, right? That's what it has to do with. So you can take a look at it analytically and say, yeah, this person naturally would want to get into management. Why wouldn't you want to get into management? Well, because it's like herding cats. A lot of days it is like herding cats. You get 5 of them in the pen and one of them runs out the door. You go to get that one and the other 4 leave. Yeah, it's horrible, right? So you do this all day long, and a lot of people don't want to do that for a job. It's like I have fun whiteboarding and coming up with a technical solution for my customer, and I'm happy doing that. It's what you define as success, right? At the end of the day, not necessarily what other people define as success. And in the culture, especially in technology, everybody looks at it and says, well, success is what level of management you get at. But quite honestly, whenever somebody comes and says, are you interested in management? Not really, because I can make a bigger impact here where I am now, and I can go to club and make a lot of money getting there as a systems engineer, right? And those are things that, you know what? Fly airplanes, like fun things, takes money, right? So you put all that together and there it is. In management, yeah, you have a higher salary, but you still, when you equate it all out, is it really as much fun? I don't know. When you walk in and you go to dinner, nobody wants to sit with you because you're the boss, right? So nobody comes to your table. Why not just be the fun individual contributor that's the natural leader guy who, like, everybody comes over the table and you just kind of have fun doing what you do?
You said something earlier I want to go back to, Paul. It wasn't explicitly stated, but I think it was a theme of what you shared. What I heard was it's super important if you're going to be someone who does go and be a first-line leader, for example, and that's your first time, or maybe it's your 5th time, the importance of having a good manager who will support and coach you, and maybe trying to find out more about that person in the interview, perhaps even more so than you would if you go into an individual contributor role, because there's a little bit more at stake once you go up a level or 2, right?
As a manager, one of the things that you have at your disposal is a ton of resources. So your number one goal in life as a manager or as a leader is to protect the company. Number one, above and beyond everything else, right? A lot of people say, oh, I'm here to protect the people. No, you're here to protect the company, number one. That's why the company promoted you. Second thing is to protect your people. If you're protecting the company, you're naturally protecting the people, because now you don't have a toxic work environment. You don't have any kind of discord. You don't have any kind of rule breakers. You don't have all of that's taken care of because you're protecting the company first. What resource do you have? You have HR. Everybody hates to talk to HR. They look at that and they go, oh man, this is the person, stay away from them. No, they are there as an advocate to help you as a manager to work through problems and issues. That should be your best friend in the whole world. So the very first thing I did was I went and made best friends with the HR person. And I said, hey, and they're looking at me like, are you nuts? Why are you even talking to me? It's like, because you're going to be here to help me, right? That's what I'm here to do. And there's so many resources that you have that you can help tremendously by doing that. That's the number one thing a lot of managers miss. A lot of leaders miss that, which is you have HR right there at your disposal. And if you use them, whenever I say use them, with what you need. Talk to them, discuss things with them. Hey, you know what? And it may not even be a problem right now, but it may be something that you may need a little bit further down the road. Hey, you know what? We've been talking about Johnny quite a bit about what a great best hire I've ever had, right? What do I have at my disposal that I can keep Johnny? Because I cannot afford to lose that person. If I do, man, my team is going to fall apart. And HR will be like, you know what? Yeah, you said this, this, and this. So make sure you do this in evaluations, blah, 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 whatever, right? They give you all kinds of guidance. And you might have somebody as a first level manager that wants to get into management that you're kind of helping evolve. You're kind of helping foster their career by giving them pointers and stuff on what they can kind of do to do it. And it's not, hey, take the Stanford class, right? Oh, why don't you go get the Harvard MBA? Those are not it. That's not it at all, right? It's the things that you can do to be involved, right? Get in with the user group for the company that you're with. Get in with the veterans group if you're a veteran. Get in with whatever. Get into different roles that you can benefit not by yourself, but just having fun doing, right? All the way around. And that I think is a really important part of it, which I think a lot of people kind of miss. By that involvement, you're naturally kind of fostering a really good relationship with different people. And that's how the networking actually starts. And that's how you keep it going. Layoffs happen. People quit. They get fired, whatever the deal with it is, right? Leave for whatever the reason. And as they move around over the years, people go, well, this person works at a competitors of mine. I don't care. I've known them for 25 years. Yeah, it's like, I mean, we know these people. These are still people, humans first, right? That's what it all boils down to. It's still people dealing with people at the end of the day.
Again, I look back at your LinkedIn and there's a transition like back from that managerial role to the individual contributor role. And I think that that barrier between management and individual contributors is actually fairly permeable. Bouncing back and forth should not be a bad thing. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that decision, like what went into that decision?
It's harder to go backwards than it is to go forward. It's harder to go from a management role into an individual contributor role. And let me explain kind of why. So from promotion until moving back was 8 years, 7.5, 8 years, whatever it was, right? It was a while. And I was over in Asia on 6 weeks, 7 weeks of helping do this part of the organization, doing layoffs over here, having a restructure over there. You name it, we were doing it, right? Had a really strong director for APAC over there that had worked for me that was doing a great job. He was really putting things together, doing good things. People loved him to death. He was, just a solid person all the way around. 2:00 in the morning, I'm in Bangkok about 3 weeks into this thing, and I get a call. A friend of mine was like, hey, this person over here is shooting for your job. They basically went to your boss and said, you need to fire Paul and hire me, and I'll take care of it. This is after we built it. So think back, 7 years ago, I wound up with something that was $18 million in the hole. They were thinking about cutting it from the whole company and firing everybody, laying everybody off. They just did this huge restructure. That's what I walked into, right? And all of a sudden, you get everything like a well-oiled machine. We're making money. We're $48 million in the black. Everything's going great. Attrition rating is like less than 1% overall for the last 3 years. You're keeping your people. You're doing really well. Everybody seems to be happy. Yeah, you got gripes and complaints, right? But you're doing a lot of good things, not just for the company, but for the employees and for morale, for everything else, right? And all of a sudden, somebody gunning for your job. The politics side of it, I've never done well with. I've never really done well with that. It is inherent. It is something that happens in there. Human beings, we just naturally get political about things, right? We have opinions. We have, sometimes little jaded opinions on some things or little strong opinions. So those actually start to kind of come out. And when the politics started to come out, I was like, you know what? I'm not even cut out for this. And the worse it got, the less tolerance I had for it. And it finally just came to a point of, I went to my boss and I said, look, I actually want to move. I want to go back in an individual contributor role. He laughed. He was like, dude, you've been doing this for this long? And now all of a sudden you want to go back? So you want to go back into something that you built, right? And go perform in that. And I said, I miss being in front of customers. It is fun. It is rewarding to help people with their career and help them develop leadership skills that they didn't know that they had, to see things in people that they don't even know that they had and kind of help them evolve. However, there's also the other side of it, which is I can't take this being up 17 hours a day, getting 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night and being on airplanes all the time. It's just taking a toll, right? So just everything considered, I want to go back in the individual contributor role. And he was like, yeah, if that's what you want to do. So I talked to a really good friend of mine, still a really good friend of mine today, that we kind of went up through the ranks together, right? So he was a salesperson. I was an engineer. He got promoted to director at the same time I got promoted to director. So he had his struggles and problems and he'd bounce ideas off of me and vice versa, right? So we kind of had learned a lot kind of going up through the ranks. And so I called him and I said, hey, bud, I kind of want to go back into individual contributor role. And he said, have you lost your mind? Why would you want to do that? And I'm like, because I'm on performance bonuses and making really good money. Hey, they give you a KPI, right? Key performance indicator. They say, here it is. If you hit this number, you get X bonus, right? Yeah, I'll take that all day long. All I have to do is perform. So that's what we did. So I started looking at what is it going to take to kind of move back in it again. And so I talked to him and he said, well, I do have this SE role, as a systems engineer, if you're interested. I said, absolutely. So I do. I move into this role. The last thing in the world I expected was, again, I sit at the table by myself. I tell people, hey, I'm going to be out here at this conference, blah, blah, blah. And there's 6 of us that are all going to be out there. Here's the hotel I'm staying at. Well, guess what? That was the word of nobody else is at that hotel. I'm the one at that hotel, right? It was so isolating. It was absolutely unbelievable. So whenever they say it's lonely at the top, it is. But it's also lonely when you get back into the ranks, right? From moving back in from management back into individual contributor role. If I were to move into a different company where I didn't know anybody or maybe just knew 1 or 2 people, it might have been a little easier. But moving up the ranks and then back down the ranks was quite telling. And it was really unexpected. It was kind of surprising.
Everybody thinks that they're on an episode of Undercover Boss, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Sure, you're an individual contributor again.
Yeah, engineer, is that your title so far? Is engineer? Sure.
I remember you talking about it being somewhat challenging to go from member of the team to manager of the team. And of course, we're talking about the other way now.
Yeah, it's almost easier to do that. When I started out my career in telecom and technology, right, it was all about loyalty. I was at my first company 17 and a half years. And then I was at the second company for almost 8 years. But then you look at it and you go, okay, is that loyalty reciprocated, right? It's a company, they do restructures, they do all kinds of things. And you kind of start looking at it and going, would it be a better idea to maybe move on to a different company? You have the same problem as what I call resume damage. When I left a director role, right, when I went to go to the other company, immediately I was a level above my boss that was hiring me. His first question was, why? I'm not going to bring you on my team because you're going to try to tell me how to do my job. And you're going to be gunning for my boss's job. And that was the thought process. And it's like, if I wanted your boss's job, I would apply for your boss's job. I don't want that level. I want to be an engineer. That's what I'm applying for. That's what I want to do. What it does do, though, is whenever you come on, once you kind of get to know people, right, especially your immediate boss and then your boss's boss, all of a sudden you get these, hey, did you ever experience this when you were in management? No names. They're there to protect the innocent, right? But they get these scenarios where all of a sudden it's like, did you ever have this? And it's like, oh, let me tell you. And the stories start, right? And it's like, oh yeah, I had this one time where this guy did this and I had a guy that passed away on me on a Saturday, had just passed away. And it was like, these are all things that they don't teach you that. There's no book that says, oh yeah, go to page 15 and this is what happens when this happens, right? When one of your guys gets his 3rd DWI and winds up in prison for the rest of his life. What do you do with that? I don't know. It's like, that's page 17, go there. So there's a lot of these things that you just kind of have to learn under fire, right? And again, that HR advisor is the person that you have to go to for that, right? Moving into those roles, a lot of times is really difficult. It'll follow you. Then it becomes kind of a distant memory. And people go, yeah, you were a director at one time. And then when you try to get at management again, everybody says the same thing. Oh, that was so many years ago. It's like, well, I don't have amnesia. I didn't forget what I did, right, all those years ago. I didn't forget the training that I had. It's a double-edged sword. It really is, trying to go back and forth in it. But yeah, a lot of it is just passion, right? It just is, what do you want to do in life and what makes you happy? And that's kind of my guiding light.
I know for a lot of people we've talked to, they missed being close to the technology, being able to fix things at, I guess, a lower level, more detailed level, so to speak. A little more hands on the keyboard, troubleshooting, that sort of thing.
Yeah. You don't have time for a lab. That's for sure. You can't spin up a Linux machine and go, run CLI commands. That just isn't going to happen when you're running worldwide services or worldwide organization, right? That part of it you actually do miss. And then you feel like you're getting behind. If you look at the industry as a whole and you think, okay, first level managers, there's a ton of them. And then director level, there's a ton of them. Every company has like organization after organization, chock full of them. So when you're competing against this and you're going in there, now all of a sudden, I don't have on my resume, it's just, yeah, you ran this and you did this and you did this and here's your numbers and stuff like that. When you're an engineer, when you're an SE, it's the funniest thing in the world. It's the smallest industry on the planet. Everybody literally knows everybody. So let me give you an example. I got laid off last year from a company. When I got laid off, I got calls the same afternoon now. I get laid off at 9:20 in the morning. 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm getting calls from people I haven't talked to in like 8 years. And they're like, hey, I heard you got laid off. Who told you that? It's like, I've only talked to one person today. The industry is like so small. your reputation kind of precedes you, which goes the other way around, right? If you're a solid leader, again, people want that. They're going to want it, but it's one of those where you're going to have to look at it. And I think, Nick, you and I had talked about this one before, right? If somebody were to call me and say, hey, we want you in this management role, you say, sure, no problem. What do you have? What's the organization? Tell me about it. It's a well-oiled machine. Man, it's full head count. We've got this, we got that. Forget it. I don't want it. I want something that is completely screwed up, have no clue what to do with this thing. It's like I have people leaving left and right, and I have no idea why. Can you help fix it? Yes, absolutely. Anybody can just take a well-oiled machine and say, yeah, let's go ahead and maintain it. But to actually build it and give ideas with it, you also have the other side of it where if it's that messed up, chances are your boss is going to give you a lot more lateral to say, just go fix it. This is an absolute headache for me. Whatever you have to do to fix it, fix it. If you have the well-oiled machine and you say, hey, I want to think outside the box, they're going to go, no. No, it's a well-oiled machine. Let's leave that alone, right? So it depends on kind of what you want to do and how you want to do it.
That's a really interesting perspective. The bigger the problem, the more runway you're going to get, or the more empowered you're going to be to make some big changes.
It's kind of a fun concept. You have to look at it from a human nature standpoint. And then one of the other things is when you're interviewing, a lot of people seem to forget this. It's a two-way road. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. So when you go in there and you start talking to somebody, and especially when it comes to you're applying for a management role, there's always this feeling of the hiring manager, the director or VP, feels like they have the upper hand. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. Okay, let me get this straight. I am going to execute on what you want me to do. Yes. Okay, so you're going to give me the whole plan and I'm just going to take it and go do something with it. Yes, you have the wrong person. Complete wrong person. That's not at all what I want to do, right? I want to literally build a team. That's what I want to do, right? So yeah, the same thing. Because during an interview process, that's as good as it's going to get, right? So everybody has their best face on at that point. So if it's not working at that point, forget it. Just walk, right? Just say, forget it. It's just not even going to be worth it. There's a lot of questions that kind of go back and forth. It's like, well, what do you expect out of a leader? And whenever you ask these questions, a lot of times the person interviewing you, the hiring manager, director, VP, they have no clue. They haven't even thought about that. They're like, kind of, what do I want out of this person? What do I expect them to do? I have a head count. I need to hire on it. Otherwise, I'm going to lose the head count. That's what they know. Are they really looking for a partner? Are they looking for somebody that's going to help them kind of get through some of these issues and problems and build an organization that's going to be world-class, that's going to be top performing? Or do they just want a placeholder? Do they just want somebody there because I have a rec and that's it? Just go, yep, I want you to check expense reports and blah. Yell at people every once in a while. Just do your job, right? And a lot of times they don't know. That's a huge indicator of that's the person you're going to be dealing with for a while. That's your boss. That's who you're going to go to and say, hey, give me the KPIs for this year so I know what my marching orders are. And they look at you and say, what's a KPI?
Yeah, that's a problem.
It's a huge problem.
That is a problem. Right? We don't know how we're being measured. Okay, well.
Yeah, exactly. I have no clue, but we're going to go do it. It's like, okay, well, give me something tangible. You also wind up with a lot of people in management, and I love this, right? You sit down with pad of paper at the beginning of a call, and you mark down how many, I call them idioms, metaphors, whatever you want to call them, right? Knights of the round table. We're going to quarterback this. We're going to Tom Brady it.
Oh, you mean cliches?
Cliches, left and right, just a ton of them. And at the end of it, you sit there and you go, okay, so I have it all written down. What did they say? What, as an engineer, did I just walk away with that I now know, here's my marching orders? There's none. Zero. I know I'm going to go quarterback something.
Here's the thing about me, Paul, is that I love winning, but more than that, I hate losing.
Pretty sure they stole that from Michael Jordan.
Probably, yeah. Most important quarter of the year.
You talked about going back to individual contributor, and you still remained kind of in that networking and telecommunication space. From what I know of your career, Paul, you got into networking and telecommunications, but that's a very broad field where you could go a lot of different directions. And maybe people listening don't even realize what all is available under that spectrum. But one thing I'm very curious about is why you chose to take on specific specialties over time within the networking field, whether it be software-defined WAN, virtual networking, cybersecurity, right? All those different things, because there are a lot of people who are afraid to go and specialize. And even for me as a systems administrator to say this person is in networking, to me, that's a specialty. And you've done things that were even further specialties within that. So how did you think about where to go, what to focus on, and how did you make those decisions to keep it interesting?
It's funny you should ask that question. Every one of those fields you just named off, somebody told me you can't do that. And that's why I did it. They said, you'll never figure out ATM. ATM is something that is just way so complex. And I'm like, watch this. And it's not an ATM machine. It's not like you go and put money, you get money out, right? This is asynchronous transfer mode. This is like connect the world together, that kind of ATM. Gigabit Ethernet came out right after the whole ATM craze, a little bit of an overlap, and everybody's like, gig is going to be the way of the future, blah, blah, blah. And then there was telephony, which the company I worked with, we did ATM, we did high-speed data networks for carriers, and then we also did telephony, voice over IP at that point, along with the traditional old telecom stuff. I knew zero about telecom, nothing. 66 block, I had no idea what that was, right? So here I am with some old retired SPC guy in a closet who's yelling and screaming, punching these cables out. I'm like, what are you doing? And so he explains the whole thing to me, right? And so then all of a sudden it's starting to make sense. Okay, now I'm learning that. So every part of it, believe it or not, there was an overlap in it. But it boiled down to somebody said you can't do that. And being the last of 6 kids, I got so tired of hearing that when I was growing up. It was like, all my brothers and sisters, you can't do that. You're not smart enough. You're not big enough. You're not this. You're not that. It's like, watch this. We're going to prove this one wrong. And that was a lot of the career, quite honestly, was just the hard-headedness, I guess, of it and the challenge of it. When I first got into firewalls, Checkpoint Firewall was the only thing that was really out there at that point, right? And this is many years ago. We were integrating that, and then Fortinet came out, started working with Fortinet boxes. We started reselling those. So I started learning that technology. When you start peeling that onion back, you start really kind of looking at your career and how you kind of got there. It literally just kind of dovetailed into each other, right? It's kind of like there was an opportunity at that point. You're sitting in a room and they said, hey, we need somebody to do this. And everybody looks around and it's like, I'll do it. It's new. I don't know anything about it. It's interesting. Let's go. Well, what could possibly go wrong? That's my favorite saying in the world. What could possibly go wrong, right? It's like, so let's just go jump in. That's been my entire career, quite honestly, right? Sometimes it doesn't work out so well. Sometimes it works out great, right? It just kind of depends. But yeah, risk taking, as long as it's a calculated risk, it's fine. As long as you think it through, you'll be totally fine with it.
Did you perceive those choices, these areas that you knew nothing about, in the same way as you would perceive an organization that's in a mess that you just have to go tidy up? Is that sort of the same thing? Like, oh, I know nothing about this. It's a mess. I'm going to go clean it up.
Yes, it's the exact same concept, right? It's the exact same thing. It's such a nightmare that it's like, okay, well, let's go jump in there and do it, right? When I left the one company doing telecommunications and they were looking for an NSX engineer, and I was like, yeah, sure. I know nothing about NSX, but hey, let's learn it. And the more you start learning, it has everything to do with your background, right? It has networking, has security, has this, has that, blah, blah. But the big part of it was the virtualization. So I had never done that before, right? So it's like, okay, well, let me start kind of learning virtualization. So you build a lab, you kind of have fun with it. Am I an expert? No. Can't even spell half the acronyms that are over there. Don't even know what it does, but you learn it to a certain level, right? And as things come up, as opportunities come up, you kind of move into them. And the same thing with, when I moved over to Palo Alto, it was just this enormous portfolio and kind of overwhelming to a certain extent, right? I'm looking at this thinking, I'll never learn it. There's no way. But then piece by piece, you start going through, they have videos and stuff training from the past. And so I'm going through these videos at 10, 11 o'clock at night because I'm the new guy. I need to learn this, right? And I have to learn it at a level that I'm comfortable with, which is pretty deep level, right? It's getting your hands on it, getting dirty. That's where I wanted to learn it at. And the same thing with in a management role, if you're looking to get into management or you're looking to get promoted in management and you're not looking for a mess or somebody that's almost in tears when they interview you, like saying, I need this done, almost like a therapy session, right? Then you're not applying for the right job. You got to get out of your comfort zone. You really do. And I'm not saying, go do crazy stuff, but you have to keep yourself uncomfortable in order to keep learning, to keep progressing.
Sounds like you're saying go make a mess, people.
Go make a mess.
Clean it up.
Go make a mess. That's what it all is. Yep.
Go find a mess to clean up.
Yeah.
Oh, they're out there. They're out there, definitely, right? Yeah.
And also, don't go crazy, says the guy who went from individual contributor to senior director of worldwide services.
Yeah, don't shoot too high.
Well, something that, Nick touched on that I want to make sure that we talk about before we run out of time, the organized way in which you nurture your extended network. And it's something that you've touched on, I think, a little bit, but do you have a specific methodology? Is there a philosophy that's behind it all? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, one of the big things to me has always been, I'm kind of a people person. I like to meet people, lunch, dinner, those kind of things, right? COVID was just horrible for me. I'm not introverted, but I'm not really extrovert at the same token, right? But I do enjoy conversations face to face, whether it be a customer or a colleague or whatever. If I don't know somebody, I'll reach out. Like if it's somebody that I have to deal with or whatever, it's kind of weird when, like, I live in Austin There's people in Austin that I've worked with for 3 years and never met them. Why have I never met them? They live right up the street. But not everybody has that same mentality to it, right? But a lot of times it's like, if we're in the same industry and somebody else is a cybersecurity engineer with a different company or whatever, we're going to cross paths eventually. And if not, it's like, why don't you reach out to them and say, hey, you know what? We're going to be at this event or whatever. And just go up and just introduce yourself and just say, hi, I'm Paul. And this is what I do. And just have a natural conversation with them. There's a lot of things you can glean off of it, right? If you ask somebody about themselves and then just sit back and listen, man, you'll learn so much out of it. And really interesting facts, really interesting things that you can actually learn off of, that you can look at and say, wow, I never really thought about that, or I never really thought about that progression path, or you started off doing what? And you guys have had some of these people on the show. I've heard this on the podcast before, right? And I'm listening and I'm intrigued. That is so cool, right? Because you go from something that has nothing to do with technology, and all of a sudden now you're a technologist and you're doing a really good job at it, right? And it's like, wow, that's a really cool progression path. So yeah, interacting with people is a big part of it. There have been people that I haven't talked to for 8 or 9 years. And all of a sudden it's like out of nowhere, I'll think, wow, I haven't talked to John in forever. And I'll just out of nowhere text John, hey man, you available? And they're like, did somebody steal your phone or what? It's like, I haven't talked to you in 8 years. I've been busy. I'm sorry. But then you get caught up. You kind of picked up where you left off, and there's no hurt feelings. It's everybody has a life going on, right? You have kids, you have grandkids, you have, starting a family or getting married, whatever the deal with it is, right? Everybody has their own journey that they're on. And so that's why it consumes a lot of time.
It's mostly who pops in your brain and who do you trip across.
Yeah, I do kind of go through LinkedIn every once in a while just to kind of see kind of what's going on. I'm a true believer in legitimately helping people, right? With the tech downturn, we saw it in energy several years ago where people are losing their jobs in droves, right? And if you look at it on LinkedIn, you see a lot of people say, oh, hey, let me know if there's anything I can do. And they'll say, hey, you know what? Would you mind introducing me to somebody? And that's it. That's the end of the feed. And the person later on comes back and says, man, I reached out to 20 people and nobody really helped me, right? It's one of those things where if there's a layoff, I call. And a lot of times that person, like day number 2, is like, man, I haven't talked to anybody in the last day. It's like all of a sudden I had the plague, right? Nobody wants to call me. It's not contagious. The person got hit in a layoff, right? What can I do to legitimately help you? And I will go to my network and say, hey, you know what? I know so-and-so over here. I know so-and-so over here. But first I need to find out from you. What do you want to do? Do you want to change career paths? Do you want to stay in the career path? What is it? This is a good opportunity, right? This is an opportunity for you to kind of branch out a little bit and look at it. And you can have really kind of cool conversations with people that you wouldn't have if they were still employed and, at the same job for the last 10 years. It's a different conversation. It truly, truly is bonding, right? Because then you can hook them up and say, hey, you know what? I know this person over here. I know this person over there. Why don't you call them? Or I can do an intro for you, right? And you do an intro. And more than once, there's been several people that haven't gotten hired at that place, but it's somewhere else. They've referred them saying, hey, you know what? You're not a good fit here, but dude, you need to go talk to Bill over here or to Jane because they have an opening and I know you're going to be a good fit. And then all of a sudden now you have another warm intro. So you're actually helping them, legitimately helping them by doing that. And people are really afraid to do that, but look at it in the opposite way. I hate asking for help. I am the worst in the world with that, right? My wife will tell you that one. I don't even ask her to help hold a ladder while I'm up trying to change a light bulb, right? It's like, I just hate asking for help. But at the end of the day, people like to help. That's what they want to do. So you're giving them a gift by saying, hey, can you help me? And they say, absolutely. They wouldn't naturally just kind of reach out. But if you ask them for it, now all of a sudden they feel empowered. They're like, yes, I will introduce you to my network. If not, and that happens a few times over, you might have a problem. You might want to talk to people and say, what have I done to kind of, is there something there? I mean, do you not like my jokes? I mean, what was it that kind of is off-putting that you're not introducing me to other people? It's the jokes. It's all about the jokes, right? Yeah, totally.
I think you're highlighting something important that's probably really hard to do if you're met with unexpected job loss, the telling people the kind of help you need and what you'd like to do next. That seems like it'd be really hard.
Way back, young in my career, first set of layoffs that had happened, and one of the guys, I really liked him, he got laid off. And I felt like I had to jump into action. And I called this guy and I'm like, hey man, I made 5 calls to 5 different people that I know before you and I even got on the call. They all want your resume, blah, blah, blah. And the guy was like, hey, I really appreciate it, but I'm just going to take some time off. No, don't take any time off. Do that. I was trying to tell them what to do. This is their life. This is their career. And at the end of the day, what I didn't know was this person had a large nest egg sitting behind them. They didn't really even have to work. They were just doing this to kind of fill the gap. And they were a little burned out at that point going, you know what? I kind of gave it my all here for the last 7 or 8 years. Just got laid off. I might just want to go drive a taxi cab for a while, or whatever the deal with it is, right? Something completely different. And here I am. Hey, I'm going to help you, blah, blah, blah. So that was my initial, you know what? Let me do this differently next time. You want to be helpful, but you don't want to be assertive, right? And it's just like being a parent. If you go in and you tell your kid what they're going to do the total opposite, right? If you kind of make it their idea and kind of, hey, what do you want to do with this? It's really amazing, right? Because to have that conversation is not really difficult. It's actually welcoming. I mean, when I got laid off and somebody would call and say, hey, let's just have a discussion, hey, we don't have any openings right now, but what is it you want to do? How do you want to do it? You know that they've dealt with people before, like they've dealt with this a lot. It's a great conversation to have. It's rewarding on both levels, right? One, I know now what I can do to help them, and I know what part of my network I can introduce them to based on what they want to do next, right? And it might be entrepreneurialism. There's a couple people I know that literally they got laid off or they quit their job. They're like, forget this, I'm out of tech. And they went and opened a franchise. Literally, they went down and opened a Dairy Queen or a Which sandwich shop or whatever, right? They were just done. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you want to do, why not, right?
Yeah. In regard to areas where you have met new people that have become strong connections, you mentioned just people you work with at whatever job and company you have. You also mentioned different special interest groups. Can you talk a little bit more about those? Which ones you like to frequent or have frequented over time? And which ones you would guide someone who's younger in their career to attend?
Those are fun ones, right? Because you have so many different groups that are out there. You have tech, you have veterans in tech, you have a lot of different groups that meet quite often, right? And you can go out and look for them. You'll see events on LinkedIn, you'll see links on or events on Facebook and stuff. It just kind of depends on what you want to do with it. But if there's people there that you don't know, like if I look at a LinkedIn feed and somebody says, hey, we're having a technology meeting down here, blah, blah, blah. And I look at it and you have somebody from 5 different companies. I know the companies because they're in tech. I don't know any of these people. I'm going. I'm definitely going. Because one, it puts me outside my comfort zone. Second of all, you have some of the most riveting conversations with people you don't even know, but they're in the same industry. And now all of a sudden you know them. And 5-6 months down the road, out of nowhere, they'll hit you up on LinkedIn and say, hey, do you have a minute? Sure. And you talk to them and, hey, I just got laid off. Wow, I didn't even hear that there was a layoff. Well, dude, let me do this. What are you interested in? And then you start the conversation. Or it might just be, hey, you know what? I live in San Antonio and I'm going to be up in Austin. Let's go grab dinner. So, okay. So you go grab dinner and you just have a great conversation and one thing leads to another. There's been times where, and I'm not kidding, this actually happened, where there was a person that I hadn't talked to in a while that was struggling with mental illness. And I personally have mental illness in the family that I actually have had to deal with, right? And I had no idea. We started a discussion just based on, hey, I'm going to be up in that area. Let's go grab dinner. Okay. So we did. And it wound up on a whole on conversation where suddenly they were going through that same issue that I had been through. And they really didn't know how to navigate it because they've never been there before. And I was actually able to give them some insight and say, this is what I did. Is it right? I don't know, but it worked, right? I mean, here's the way I handled it. And here's what I did mentally and so on and so forth. So it's not just about tech. It's not just about jobs. And a lot of people look at it kind of in the wrong respect there. They look at it like, I need to do it because I need to get something out of it. And a lot of times you're doing it because there's a lot you can give. There's a lot of insight you can actually kind of give out to help other people. Sometimes it is about, okay, if you do lose your job, if there is a restructure, if you're not happy at your current position, you're like, hey, you know what? I'm kind of thinking about branching out a little bit. That network actually comes in so handy. And it's not something, I don't do it with the thought in mind of, well, I'm doing this so that in case I lose my job, now I know a bunch of people. That's kind of the wrong mindset to go into it with. It's kind of like if you stop at a corner and somebody, you give somebody a $5 bill because they're homeless, what they do with that money is their own, right? But the same token, you're doing it to help them out of the clearness of your heart. You're not doing it for anything in return.
Right. It's almost like trying to put good vibes out into the universe, right?
Yeah, good vibes and then just knowing people. I mean, people are fascinating. They really are, especially in tech. The mindset that it takes to get into technology in any one of these roles, doesn't matter tech support or a technical account manager, sales, whatever, right? It's a unique set of people that actually are in and around tech, right? It brings together a really cool commonality, right? That we all have. We all love it. We all do it. We're all addicted to it to one extent or another, right? Can't stop doing it. It's like, got to have a bump of technology today. It's one of those things that at the end of the day, the more people you know, just the better off it is. And there's some people you talk to once and you never talk to them again. And there's people on LinkedIn that you're friends with or whatever, and you kind of go back and forth. And there was actually a person that reached out to me and they were like, hey, I got this and I got that. And like he knew me. And I'm like, who is this person? I'm looking up on LinkedIn and I'm like, I didn't work with him before. He didn't work for any companies that I worked. I'm like, I don't even know where I know this person. Come to find out, 3 years ago, we were at a conference together, and I, gave him my business card to hold on yards, and it is a small world, small industry, and it's all about just getting out there and just who can you help? And then if you ever need help, hopefully it's there for you.
And you're actually going to feel better when you are able to help somebody. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this. You talk to somebody and you have a conversation with them and they're able to apply it or use it in a way that gets them out of a tough spot or challenging situation. And they may never let you know, of course. Don't expect to know who you've helped necessarily, but just the trying to help, I think the act of service, it makes us feel pretty good.
I had a conversation with somebody 3 weeks ago now that, to your point, Nick, had actually said, you have no idea how much you helped me 2 years ago when blah, blah, blah. We had this conversation at dinner, and then 3 weeks later, I lost my job. And I'm like, really? And I'm like, I had no idea you lost your job. And they're like, well, I didn't put it on LinkedIn because I had another job so fast. But part of the reason why, it was like, you really impacted me. And I'm like, I had no idea. I had no clue. It was just a great conversation. I had a lot of fun with it. It was absolutely remember the conversation. Yeah. But there was no agenda in mind. There was no, I'm doing this because I might be able to get something out of it or whatever, right? But when you can help somebody land a job or help them out of a situation, to me, I felt better about that when they landed a job than I did when I landed a job when I got laid off. It was like, I really did. It was like, it's riveting. It's like you actually were able to help somebody and kind of help them with the connections, right? And putting that together. The connections that you make those connections with, good people know good people. That's what it boils down to. So your network, if you're a good, solid person, good engineer, blah, 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 chances are your network is good, solid people. So it kind of lays the groundwork for helping everybody out. I agree 100%. It's all about who you can help.
It strikes me as a very strong parallel to something that we heard very early on in our interviewing career on the podcast, which is, as a manager, you don't know if today's a good day.
Don Jones.
Was it Don Jones?
Okay. Yeah. It's the same when you help somebody in a job search or career advice or whatever. You don't know if that conversation, however casual, you might not even know that they needed help, at the time that you had the conversation with them. You don't know what the impact is. And you have to be okay with that. You just have to have, faith that you're a good person and have, great conversations and that you're leaving a positive trail behind you.
Yeah. It's all about the positive vibes, right? I mean, you have to live your life. You have to be able to feel confident in what you do, who you help, who you talk to, how you do your business, right? How you do your day. Those are all really, really important things, right? Everything has been a learning experience. Everything has been interesting. Have there been bumps in the road? Yes, absolutely. A ton of bumps, right? But it's like anything else, right? I mean, if you're on a cross-country flight in an airplane, you're going to hit bumps. It's going to be turbulence, right? You just fly through it. And then whenever you get there, you feel a little bit better about it, right? Because you made it through the turbulence. Sometimes it's just, where is it going to take you? How are you going to get there? Sometimes it's the journey. Sometimes it's the end result, right? You look at this whole thing and it's like, what kind of impact am I going to make on humanity, right? At the end of the day. That's the big goal right there. And it's like, how are people going to remember you? Are they going to remember you as the helpful person that went out of their way to help people out? Or are they going to remember you as, yeah, boy, that guy, oof. How are they going to refer to you? And that's a big one, right? And that, it doesn't have anything to do with money. It doesn't have anything to do with prestige or being in a public eye. That just has to do with just being a good, solid human being, right? And that's kind of, if you live your life like that and just clean and above board, you really don't have much to worry about.
Paul, I don't know if we can come up with a better mic drop moment. I really appreciate the time that you spent with us, and maybe people want to reach out to you. What's the best place to reach you? Is it LinkedIn?
Yeah, LinkedIn would probably be the best place to reach out to me at. I don't frequent it every single day, but yeah, I do look at it a few times a week. And yeah, if they want to reach out, absolutely. Anywhere in the Texas region or Texas area, I'm always up for a coffee or lunch or dinner or whatever. And any subject goes, right? It can be technology. It can be law enforcement, change a career path. Some colleagues have been, hey, my son's thinking about getting into law enforcement, wants to go be a pilot. Can you talk to him? Absolutely. Yeah, it's all about who you can help and how you can help them.
Thanks again so much, Paul, for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Yeah, really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
How many times have we as technical people been told about a problem and immediately went to solutioning when we should have taken a step back and done some more discovery to figure out if we really understood the problem? This is the same mindset we need to take if we speak to someone who's been impacted by a layoff and trying to figure out what they want to do next. If someone reaches out to you for help and they just want to have a conversation, just like Paul said, a great idea is to ask them what they'd like to do next. Hopefully they have some idea of what that is. Maybe they need you to brainstorm with them. I think it's okay if you're having that conversation with someone to make a recommendation. Hey, you should look at this type of job because the skills you had from doing the jobs you've done in the past or what I know of you makes it seem like you'd be a perfect fit for this job role over here. Have you even thought about that? Maybe the person hasn't even thought about it and you open up a whole new set of jobs they could pursue that they would actually be qualified for. Maybe they want to do something totally different, and that's okay too. You might know someone who could help them get into something totally different. What if you talk to someone who really doesn't have any idea what to do next? They haven't thought it through. They're too overwhelmed with what's happened to them that they don't know. I think we need to encourage them to spend some time thinking about it. Go and read What to Do Next by Jeff Henderson. That was recommended by former guest Daniel Amir, who we had in episodes 323 through 326. It's a fantastic read. I would highly recommend that to anyone as you think about what you might want to do next in your career. I like what Paul said about the job of a leader. The number one job is to protect the company. If you protect the company like you're supposed to, you'll be serving the people on your team appropriately. This adds another element to what Richard Russell said in episode 319, because he told us the job of a manager or a leader is not to serve their team. It's to provide value for the business, the organization, and their leadership. But serving the people is how you do the job. It's not the what, it's the how. I think if you put that together with what Paul said about protecting the company, that makes a nice, well-rounded description of what managers and leaders have to do. Do you know someone else who suffered from resume damage because they were a high-level leader who wanted to go back to individual contributor? We'd love to hear their story, something similar or something totally different than what you heard today. We're always looking for good guests, so send us an email, nerdjourneypodcast@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Catch you next time.
Farewell, listeners. Tune in next time as the journey continues. I'm John White at BJourneyman, for Nick Cordy at NetworkNerd_, signing off.
Adios.
Grandkids, you have, starting a family or getting married, whatever the deal with it is, right? Everybody has their own journey that they're on, their own nerd journey, so to speak, right? And so that's why it consumes a lot of time.
Nice.
That was very nice.
I had to get that in there, buddy. I'm sorry.
Good brand placement.
You're going to edit it. I know you are.
No, I think I'm going to leave that one in.
Oh my goodness.